And I'll put you guys on another screen so I can keep an eye on you guys as well. So everyone should be seeing my screen at the moment. And as Joshua said, we'll be talking a lot about Google Workspace collaboration, but also specifically about the security tools within Google Workspace. So, you know, how many of us are working in exactly the same way as we used to work 3 or 4 years ago? That's a trick question. None of us are. Personally, I've been working from home since February 2020, and I'll probably never go back to the office. We've actually had that internal conversation, and we are by far more productive working from home. And now that companies are starting to move back into the office, the old way of working really seems outdated and old, and employees kind of favor a hybrid approach to work. And why not allow your employees to work from home when it suits them, and maybe come into the office for a couple of days a week for that human connection? The only reason you don't allow your employees to work from home generally is because you haven't given them the tools to be able to work from home and to do their job from anywhere. In that case, you have joined the right webinar. So most of the Google Workspace customers that were already running Google Workspace, they didn't have a panic around lockdowns or being forced to work from home, because with Workspace, you can truly work from anywhere on any device. Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Docs, Sheet, Google Meet, it all works in the browser tab. It's a tool set built in the cloud for the cloud, and that's why it works so beautifully. Fun fact, I actually had to reinstall my Windows PC last week, because I didn't know that it was something with the Windows updates or the graphic drivers. It just caused my screen to kind of flash at me repeatedly without showing me what's on the screen, so I couldn't even log into my machine. I like to think Bill Gates was trying to give me an epilepsy attack. But I could, without having to think about it, just format my hard drive, reinstall Windows 10, a legal copy, and then use the Edge browser to download Chrome, and I was back up and running. I had nothing else that I needed to configure, no POP or IMAP settings. I didn't have to contact IT support, which would have been me, and kind of reconfigure my Outlook profile. It's all just in the cloud, and it's a seamless experience. And I'll be honest, I'm getting too old to reinstall Windows. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I didn't lose a single email or document or calendar appointment, because nothing was physically on my machine. Everything was in my Google account in the cloud where it belongs. I can even borrow a colleague's machine, use their Chrome browser, sign into my Google account, and continue my work from there. I'll even have all of my open tabs on that device. So you can really just seamlessly continue to work from anywhere on any device. Google's technology is seamless in that way, and it's a set of tools integrated with each other at every opportunity. And that's why we like calling the old G Suite the new Google Workspace since the rebranding. And I really like that because it truly is one workspace where you just get all of your work done. It's not a set of standalone tools. And if you've worked with Workspace before, you would have noticed that everything is beautifully integrated. To quote Thomas Kurian, the CEO of Google Cloud, he said something to the effect of, Workspace is more than the sum total of each of their tools combined. When you add everything together, you have something more. And that's the integration and the collaboration and the ease of use that you get from Google Workspace. And Google loves making technology easy to use. And how many users are using Google Workspace? There's about 3 billion of them worldwide. It isn't a new technology that's only starting to be rolled out now. This is a proven technology used by some of the biggest enterprises in the world. 6 million businesses and 3 billion monthly active users are using Google Workspace. And this is the company that's revolutionized search, YouTube, Drive storage, spreadsheet collaboration. And why would you as a company not want to partner with Google as your technology provider? Next up, we'll be running through some of the security features that I love the most in Workspace. Some of these features are only available in Workspace Enterprise, but that's where your trusted Google partner like Google Whogohost would step in and help you identify the right set of tools, and also help move you and your users into the cloud. Do data migration, training, and change management to kind of take your users along the journey with you. And who are some of these companies that are already using Google Workspace? Some of the biggest long-standing companies around, as well as digital native companies. Startups starting today, they're not signing up for Microsoft. They're signing up for Google Workspace because they've realized there's kind of a better way of working in today's world. You've got PricewaterhouseCoopers, you've got Twitter, Roche Pharmaceutical, Netflix, ATB Financial, Airbus. These companies are using and loving Google Workspace, and it's revolutionized their companies and their users' ability to just work from anywhere. Something worth noting as well before I dive into the security side of things, Google is a mobile-first company. First, they think and design the mobile experience for their products for their users, as opposed to the mobile app being an afterthought. And if you've never used Gmail Drive, Sheets, or Calendar on an iPhone or an Android device, then you're in for a treat. Download those apps to your phone if you don't already have them, and actually use your Gmail account in those applications. You will be amazed by the functionality and the consistent experience you have on those mobile apps. And because everything begins and ends in the cloud where it belongs, there's no maximum number of devices you can connect to your account. At one stage, I've had like 5 or 6 different devices, laptops, desktops, mobile phones, and it's just a seamless experience switching from the one to the other. I could pick up any device and continue where I've left off. And focusing just on the Gmail app for a second, with one app on my Android or my iPhone, I can do all of my emails, all of my chats, all of my video callings from within the same application. So I don't need to spend time switching from one app to the other on my phone. And if you look at the second image of the phone, you'll notice that I've switched from Gmail to chat for a one-on-one or group conversations. On the third phone, I've switched to Rooms with advanced integrations with Google Tasks, Google Docs, and Sheets. Think of these rooms as having one for each project you and your teams are working on. And on the final image on the right, I've switched to Google Meet for my video calls, including a recent snippet of my calendar so I can see what's coming up in the next couple of hours. The Gmail app also includes multi-factor authentication built into it. So when you're signing into your Google account from a device that you've never signed in from before, then Google is going to prompt you with a little pop-up and a yes or no option. Is this you signing into your Google account? Without tapping yes on the phone, that authentication won't go through. And just focusing on Google Rooms for a second before we move on to the security features, looking at the image, you can see I'm still in my Gmail interface in my Chrome browser. I've switched from emails to Rooms, and I not only have chats there, but that's where I have the tasks. I can assign tasks to specific teammates. I can set due dates by when those tasks have to be completed. If we're having a discussion around Google Doc or a Google Sheet, I can open it right there in the same tab and collaborate on any document with my teammates. No need to switch to another tab and kind of lose sight of the conversation, all without having to install anything. Do you know what else doesn't require any software to be installed? Your security and compliance tools in Google Workspace. And compliance is just a fancy way of saying the government is telling you what to do. So if the auditor walks into your company and asks if you have a data loss prevention system that can stop confidential information from leaving your organization, you better have a good answer for that. So Google's DLP is integrated with Gmail, Google Drive, Google Chat, meaning you can set up your DLP policies and can stop confidential information from leaving via email or a Drive document, whether it's a sheet or a doc or a PDF, or through Google Chat. And the fun fact, when you block a certain word from being typed into Google Chat, it also blocks screenshots of that word from being typed into Google Chat or being sent over Google Chat, because Google can do optical character recognition on your images and apply your policies there too. And then you've got the Alert Center where you can handle all of your security alerts, and that's integrated with the investigation tool in the Security Center, which I'll be going in on the next slide. But I'm mentioning the Alert Center because you can set your DLP policies or rules not to block the content, but to send an alert to the Alert Center and warn specific administrators and users of the triggering of this DLP rule. And other actions you can take with the DLP policies, you can also warn the user, like, are you sure you want to share this information, for in case they're unaware that they're sharing sensitive information, or you can block the content, or you can limit it to only internal sharing, no external sharing of particular contents or keywords, or additionally, internal sharing, including trusted domains of particular external vendors. So pretty powerful stuff. But even more powerful is the Security Center. Because what else are you going to call something that provides you with all of the reporting and the alerting and the rules and the charts, investigation, and tools for remediation of your security threats? Highlighting a few key features, first up, we've got the security health section, where Google will provide you with recommended security settings for your domain and customized advice on security best practices. And if you look at the security health page, it will advise you to perhaps activate two-step verification or multi-factor authentication for all your users. It'll tell you when you have too many administrators with super admin rights that they don't need. It'll also tell you to perhaps disable POP and IMAP access or limit the API scopes of third-party products. And yes, you can absolutely limit the API scopes of third-party products. Next up, we've got the security dashboard in the middle. It gives you an overview of important systems and metrics. That's where your administrators should check in on each morning. Scroll through your security dashboards each morning instead of scrolling through Twitter. And I know it's difficult with what's happening with Elon Musk and Twitter, but I think the security dashboard is a little bit more important for us. So last but not least, we've got the investigation tool that helps you drill down into your alerts and investigate specific cases. If you need to find all Drive documents that have had their share settings changed from internal to external, this tool can do it. If you need to find an email with a particular phrase, this tool can do it. Or if you want to look for all third-party applications that a user or a group of users have allowed access to their Google contacts or their Drive documents, then this tool can do it. It can not only help you surface that information, but also take action against it. In the case of Drive documents, you can audit the sharing permissions and make corrections, all from this one control panel. In the case of email accidentally being sent company-wide, you can find and delete that email from your users' inboxes. And in the case of third-party applications, you can revoke access to that application. All of these capabilities, while being fully in the cloud where it belongs, no software installation required on users' end devices, apart from the Chrome browser. And who isn't using the Chrome browser these days anyways? You can even control where your users' data are kept, whether it's kept safe in a secure Google data center in the US, which falls under the Patriot Act, or if your data is kept in a secure Google data center in a GDPR compliant region in Europe. And for the English law, top tip, choose a GDPR region in Europe. And very soon, we'll have Google data centers in South Africa. Google has finally completed the subsea fiber cable spanning from Portugal to Lagos in Nigeria and finally Cape Town in South Africa. And this is the first time that a Google-owned and operated cable touches the African continent. Google only puts down their own data centers on top of infrastructure that they own, not on public internet cables. So to a degree, we were kind of expecting the announcement about the data center because of the subsea cable completion. And I'm happy that it's in Cape Town. But if you can speculate for just a second, I would think that the next data center is going to be in Nigeria. And the reason I say that is because the subsea cable landed in Lagos first and then South Africa. And Nigeria is perfectly situated for a West Africa region. And then South Africa can become the Sub-Saharan Africa region. So there would be two Google data center regions in the African continent. And Nigeria is a very, very busy market for Google Cloud. So on to endpoint management. Those familiar with Google Workspace, you know that you can already manage Android and iOS devices. You can also manage the Chrome browser on any device, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. But how many of you know that you can actually manage Windows devices with Google Workspace? And not only can you manage your Windows devices and the policies that various users have within Google Workspace, but you can also have users authenticate against Google when they sign into their Windows device. Remember what I said about not having to install any software? So forget about that for a second, because in order to sign into Windows with your Google account, there is a tiny app that you need to install on the Windows device. That's made by Google according to their normal best practices of security. And of course, Google would give you kind of a scalable way of installing this application on hundreds or even thousands of machines at the same time. But the benefit you get by using Google as your authentication is that users use the same username and password and two-step verification that they use with Google, which is absolutely an industry-leading technology that just keeps users safe. Back to not having to install anything for your users. One of the selling points of Google Workspace is that you can access your data from any device anywhere in the world. And many digital native companies enjoy that benefit. But what if you have to adhere to very strict compliance and regulation in your industry? And in that case, being able to sign in from any device anywhere in the world, it doesn't become a feature, it becomes a risk. And that's where context-aware access comes in. And you can set policies on how your users can sign in and from where they can sign in and on which device your users is allowed to access company information. So to be clear, this is after a user has successfully authenticated with a username, a password, a two-step code. Only then do you move on to context-aware access, and those policies then kick in. And examples, you can set policies to limit drive access only on devices which are encrypted, or you can allow access to Google Workspace only on your corporate network, not from home and not from an internet cafe. You can also limit the access based on users' geolocation, whether they are signing in from Europe or Russia or China or America or Australia. You can actually geo ring fence your users. Or a policy enforcing only verified company-owned devices. And this gives you all the control you need to keep your users safe. All the sign-in options you want and need. For modern web-based applications, you would use single sign-on with Google. And for the non-technical people, single sign-on just means you sign into a third-party application with your Google username and password. Many companies also don't realize that Google comes with a built-in LDAP as well. So for all your on-prem or your custom-built in-house application that you host yourself that still does the legacy LDAP type authentication, you can use Google as your LDAP. So you won't go through SSO, but rather use Google's secure LDAP for those legacy applications. And the strategy would be you issue a user with a Google account, you enforce a strong password and two-step verification, and then you make them sign in everywhere with those Google credentials. From an onboarding and an offboarding process, what could be simpler and more secure? And from a user's perspective, what could be easier? And for companies still running Windows and Active Directory, they would ask then, why do we still need Active Directory and SCCM if we can do all of this with a single Workspace subscription? And the answer is you don't. This is what the future looks like, and everything is in the cloud where it belongs. And now, what would a Workspace webinar be without mentioning Google Meet? The video call technology we're currently using works on any device and best with a Chrome browser, secure end-to-end encryption with dial-in numbers so everyone can be part of a meeting. You've got the ability to record a meeting and a transcript of who said what in the meeting with a single click, actually 2 clicks. Meetings aren't recorded locally, but rather in the cloud. And once the meeting is being recorded, it's simply Google adds it to your Google Drive. So you don't have to upload a large video file somewhere to a file sharing system afterwards. Google simply records it in the cloud and adds it to your Google Drive a couple of minutes later. And then you can just share it straight from there with whomever you like. You also have advanced features built in. You can poll your participants. You can do a Q&A. You can upvote the questions, or they can submit them anonymously. And I think actually you also have the same ability if I just click OK. So you can also do a Q&A straight within Google Slides as well. It's just amazing technology built in everywhere. You also have the breakout rooms, and breakout rooms is one of my favorite features. You can have everyone in the same Google meeting, and then if you need to break out to separate video calls where you can kind of, what do they call it, brainstorm something, you can design your breakout rooms, how many rooms there are, who's in which room. You can have them all break out to those rooms, and at a set time, you can bring everyone back into the same meeting. Amazing technology, and it's all just seamlessly built into Google Meet. You can even live stream your meetings internally or to YouTube to the public. Whether you're using it for product announcements or webinars, much like this, that technology is built into Google Meet. But the more exciting technology is where the AI and the ML stuff gets involved in Google Meet. And this is where Google gets really smart about connecting a variety of their different technologies. And you've got AI-driven noise cancellation, adaptive lighting, and adaptive layouts. But my favorite feature here is the ability to do closed captions in real time. Google can do closed captions in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and German. And it even has the ability to translate English into those languages. And there's a future feature on the roadmap that will be coming shortly, which is the ability to translate from German, Portuguese, Spanish, and French back into English. So if you're not able to hear the person clearly, or if my Dutchman accent sounds funny to you, you can simply switch on closed caption and follow the conversation. And I think closed captions is also built into Google Meet. So if I just have a look here, caption preferences, so I can switch it on, and then you guys should now see it at the top of the video call. In real time, it does the closed captions. It's absolutely amazing technology. I'm going to switch it off because I think it's distracting. Almost done, just a couple more slides. So Google also has got the Meet Quality tool built into the control panel. And what the Meet Quality tool is a tool for your administrators whenever people are struggling with their video calls or something is wrong with their network, or is it a device issue, if you don't know what the issue is, this Meet Quality tool in the control panel will show you all of your company's recent meetings. You can click into a particular meeting. It'll show you who the participants were, when their screen was being shared, when they unmuted their mic. You can also see a lot of the technical jargon with regards to the network quality, the CPU utilization. It basically helps you to just ascertain whatever the problem might have been. So a lot of useful metrics there. And then last but not least, Google also has hardware for your boardrooms. So if you'd like to take the power of Meet out of the browser and bring it to your boardroom, they've got premium hardware where you can kit out your boardroom with all the fancy equipment. They've got these little touch screens where you can, with one tap, click into a meeting, all integrated with Google Workspace and your calendar resources. And that's it. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand back over to Joshua. But if you guys do have any questions, please email the team at Whogohost. And thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nick. That was very informative and also educative. Thank you very much. Okay, there's a question from Titus. Okay, what is LDAP? Okay, I believe Candice actually responded to that. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Candice. Wanted to know if there are other questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have. And maybe just to drill down into the LDAP question while someone else gets their question ready. You've got Active Directory, which is an LDAP, and a lot of other advanced Microsoft features built into it to manage a Microsoft environment. And an LDAP is basically just the directory portion of it. Many companies don't need an Active Directory, they just need an LDAP, and Google can be your LDAP as well. Is basically the point we were trying to make there. So if you've got a legacy on-prem LDAP you're trying to get rid of, moving over to Workspace, Google will become your LDAP and you will no longer need your on-prem LDAP. But thanks for jumping in there, Candice.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, there's also a question here from Uzo. Okay, hope we will have access to the recording after the meeting. I think so, but I will let you know.
Yeah, and then as to the question about multi-factor authentication, or if they want to explore LDAP and SSO, that's where you guys would email enterprise at Whogohost, the team at Whogohost, and they'll bring me in on it. We'll set up a one-on-one meeting with you and your tech team, and we'll help you explore any and all of those features.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Uzo, I don't know if that's clear. But if you still have other questions, you could just, okay, I think that's clear.
Awesome,
okay,
thank
first
you.
of all, before we proceed, I would like to introduce our Chief Operation Officer, in the person of Olaoluwa to join the course of the meeting, course of the webinar. Welcome. Okay, thank you. And also, if you still have other questions, you could just raise up your hand while we, and also unmute and ask your questions before we proceed to the second session. Okay, okay. You can ask questions. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Femi. I think I logged in with the NATED account, so sorry about that. Well, the question I have is, I'm not sure if it's just the right place, but it's regarding, I'm trying to set up a domain control, and I'm trying to do it with LDAP or with Google, because we use Google, we don't use what's it called, Microsoft 365. So I'm trying to set up the domain controller using Google's LDAP. Is there a straightforward way to go about that?
I don't know if there's a straightforward way, but I don't know if we should go down the supporting troubleshooting rabbit hole on this webinar, but I can send you a link where Google kind of lays out how to configure the LDAP. But are you setting up the LDAP in Google and you're trying to connect that to to an on-prem LDAP system, or are you just trying to use Google's one and you're trying to set up like authentication for an on-prem application against Google?
It's a cloud server, so it's going to be, I'm setting up the cloud server to work with Google.
So you're trying to set up a sync between Google LDAP and another LDAP, which isn't you using Google's LDAP. That's you trying to sync two different LDAPs. There is a sync tool called the Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS, and let me copy that link. But there's a tool that can sync those two directories for you. So you would onboard your users in the LDAP, and then you would sync that with Google. So then your LDAP, your on-prem LDAP or your cloud LDAP, the external one, remains your single source of truth. And whatever you do in that LDAP, it then syncs to Google. So the Google Cloud Directory Sync can do on-prem LDAPs and open source LDAPs and Active Directory. I don't know if it can do a cloud LDAP. We'll have to see about that. But happy to take that conversation offline and set up a one-on-one meeting with you where we can actually dive into the details and help you troubleshoot.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, William, you have a question?
Yeah, William, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
Hello.
go ahead. Hi, William. You can go ahead and ask your question if you have one. Anyone else with a question while we wait for William?
Okay. William, can you hear me? Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay. Okay, so fine. If you still have questions, you could just drop them on the chat box, and we'll just move to the next speaker. So because of our time, thank you very much. Okay, thank you once more, everyone. And moving very fast to our second speaker for today. Is a DevOps lead at Ucard, and his name is Mr. Olaoluwa Olanipekun. Mr. Olaoluwa.
Hi, Joshua.
Yeah,
Thank
hi. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. I think we're still in the morning. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Let me just share my slide real quick. I think I have a very short slide here, but I'll be doing most of the talking though. Okay. So can you please confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So, good morning once again. I'll basically be talking around the theme of this webinar itself, and that's security and collaboration in the cloud in respect to organization culture. So I think I have a shorter version of that here to save space. So let's start by talking about what cloud collaboration is. And I think Nick already said most of it because just like you said, Google Workspace is a collaboration tool, but we have numerous collaboration tools. And basically, what does collaboration means? It's cloud collaboration basically allows teams and external collaborators. So let's say you have a team and you have people you work with externally. Everyone can work together within a document, within, it could be a meeting just like we're having right now. We are currently collaborating on a call and everything is all hosted in the cloud. So that is what collaboration is mainly all about. So people in different locations, we're bringing them into one space to achieve a particular goal. And the second aspect of what I'll be talking about is cloud security. And cloud security is a very, very wide area to talk about because when you're talking about cloud security, you could be talking about email security, you could be talking about web security. You could actually be still talking about physical security because cloud infrastructure they are all physical, and securing that is also part of your security in the cloud. Because without a secure premise, I don't think there's really anything secure about the cloud. So what does cloud security means? And I think it's just basically a collection of security measures that are designed to protect anything you have in the cloud. Just like I said, be it your email, be it your website, be it your, what else? Whatever it is you have in the cloud, basically your application or your data itself. These measures ensures that the user and device authentication, ensures users and device authentication. So who can access your system? That's what security would enforce. Who has access to what is still under security as well. So your data and resource access control, which is what I just talked about. Who has the authorization to view what data within your organization? And your data privacy protection. So what type of information do you want to divulge to the public within your application, within your organization, whichever way it is that you want it. Before I go further, I think in the context of securities, generally I know security comes at a very high cost. And I think a lot of organizations would have noticed that, and which is a good thing when we have the likes of Google Workspace, the likes of, let's say, Office 365, but I will still say Google Workspace, because they come pre-configured with all the security features that you need to keep your self-save online by default. So you are not really paying anything extra in terms of security. But there are some certain aspects of your organization that might still require you to do some internal protection on. Just for example, your applications, you might have to also you might have to define a security strategy to see how the users on your application, the users within your organizations, how they are going to be safe online. And talking about collaboration again, and I think we this is something we already talked about today. The way we are today, it's not the way we work today is not the same way we worked let's say 2 years ago, even a year ago. Things keep evolving, and with the new trend, it's not even a new trend, it's actually it's over a number of years now, for working remotely exposes us to a lot more need to enforce security within our systems. And the reason being that even if you have different employees within your organization, they are connecting from different regions. In a number of cases, you can't control what device, at least just without doing anything, you can't control what device they are connecting to your systems from. You can't control what they do within your system in most cases. But today we have a number of security provisions that makes it possible to limit where those kind of requests come from, what people do within your system, and so on. So, which makes cloud collaborative tools really great because they come with all these things by default. And still talking about cloud security, let's talk about web security. Let's talk about your websites, because at least hosting is one key thing that Whogohost offers, and I believe it will be appropriate to talk about that. And for securing your web applications, there are a number of ways you can go. There are different ways you can go about it, and I think the least minimum of that, of what you could do by default, is to ensure that communication within and outside your organization or your application are all encrypted by the means of SSL. So SSL to me is the basic level that you can go in securing your organization or your application. So encryption of data is very important, because even if somebody sniffs your data or got your data through whatever means possible, then if that data is encrypted, there's little or no sense the person can make out of it. The only people that can decrypt that that information is the server itself and the client that is communicating with it, in whichever case it is. And while we have the basic one, we also have the use of web application firewall, which is where services like Bitninja comes in. So there's really nothing you can do to prevent attacks. But what you can do is, when it happens, what will your process look like? If you are under attack, what happens? So what web application firewall does is it stays in front of your application and intercepts requests coming to it. It checks it for some certain patterns or anomalies, blah blah blah. And if everything checks out, the request goes to your web server responds, and so on. It goes like that. Without the web application firewall, that simply means this interception doesn't happen. Every kind of request, be it SQL injection, whatever kind of attack is being levied on you, will just go directly through to your application, and you'd start noticing performance issues. And I think that happens a lot with in shared hosting environments in a lot of cases, because in most cases, people are using, let's say, WordPress, and WordPress is one easy thing to actually get compromised if not properly managed. So you will notice performance issues and other kind of symptoms that will probably get you through. But it's not an easy thing to do. It's, while there are tools that make it easy, it might look very modeled up, but with the right tools, I believe cloud security is very achievable. And let me quickly talk about 5 key aspects of cloud security. And the first part, just like I said before, is identity and access management. So you identify who is accessing your system and what whoever it is have access to. Then we have the network layer protection, which is what I just talked about now. Web application firewall is a network level protection. We have DDoS protection. We have a number of other security features that can help with that. So that's basically network protection. Data security, I think this speaks more to your databases. How secure are they? What can you do to make them secure? I know of a number of databases that comes with some security features. With the right configuration, I believe you can also get that secured. And the idea of having your databases within a private network is also a very good practice, because it's only a system that can be accessed publicly that is extremely exposed to those kind of attacks. And we have your OS security and hardening. So with everything you have online, it all relies on an underlying operating system. You have to make sure that as best practices, your system is always updated as soon as there is an update fix, because for each update that is released, we always have security patches for vulnerabilities and a number of things that might come with it. So it's always very good to keep your system as updated as possible. Then the last part of it, which is very, very critical, is monitoring. monitoring, alerting, audit through incident response. So you really need to know what people are doing on your system, which speaks to auditing. And whenever things are happening on your system, you don't have to wait till things go bad or somebody comes to tell you that, oh, this is happening in your system. You really need your system to be able to communicate with you when things like this are happening. So let's assume that in the case of DDoS attack and you are monitoring network communications on your systems, the moment you notice some specific patterns and you get alerted, it's much more easier to attend to those then before it turns into a major incident. And I think this will be the last part of my slide. So let's talk about best practices. And I know I might have talked about some of them one way or the other earlier. So we have to have a very strong cloud security strategy. So you have to define what tools you need to put in. So let's assume for your web application, do I want to put Bitninja in front of my application to do some filtering for me, at least so that the number of attacks that go through to my application is reduced. You also need to define what kind of, if you still need to, if you want to have firewalls in front of your network, to be sure that not all your ports are just open to everybody to play with. And you have to educate. Education is really important because a lot of compromise that happen out there is mostly through social engineering attacks. And social engineering attacks is basically through human beings. You manipulate someone to get you access to something or whatever way you use to achieve that. And educating people really helps in alleviating that, because there is no software you can deploy to control what human beings will do. So they really need to know what's the new trends of vulnerabilities or security measures that need to be put in place at all times. And using two-factor authentication. So we are now in a world where single password signings are actually, I think they will go away eventually because it's really not secured. So anybody can just brute force you if you don't have any kind of restrictions, that they'll keep brute forcing until they can guess your password. But with two-factor authentication, even if your password gets compromised, there's another layer of authentication that will prevent any form of attack or security breaches from happening. And encrypting data in transit and at rest. In transit, we already talked about SSL. For data at rest, then we can start talking about drives encryption for your data within your hard drives or your solid state drives. That will help in terms of encryption of data. Security monitoring and logging, just like I said, is very important. We need to know what is happening, and we need to be able to trace where it is coming from, which is where logging will also come in. Stay up to date on security threats and vulnerabilities. This is really important because the version of the application you are using today might actually have some vulnerability, and the next update might actually be fixing it. Have a plan for responding to security incidents. So you don't let it eat you before you start thinking about what to do. Thinking in chaos will cause more problem. You have to plan ahead of this. And the last part, I think, backup in any case is really, really important, because even let's say a complete disaster happened and there's nothing you can really do about it, the only leverage you have, the only thing you can go back to are your backups. So you need to take backups really, really seriously. So I don't think you need to wait for your provider to back up your system before you keep a backup of your own, because your backup requirements will, I know in most cases, will definitely be different from the cycle in which whoever your provider is working with. So I think that will come to the conclusion of my presentation. I hope I've been able to pass some message across. So I'll be open to any questions, if any. And I'll be handing over to Joshua.
Okay, thank you very much, Olaoluwa, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you. And also, it's also interesting us to know that Olaoluwa was part of us at Whogohost. He was our former head of technical services. Yeah, thank you very much, Olaoluwa, for jumping on this. Okay, so if you have the questions, Akindele or Ki, you actually raised the hand before. I don't know if you still have a question.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. So it's because I joined the class late, so I was trying to. I want to ask about the main key of the class. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay, I can hear you.
Can
I
you?
can hear you.
Okay. So it's actually due to the fact that I joined late. But before I have a question, but you can take someone else before I ask. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I think Titus was raising up his hand. Hello, Titus, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Good morning. Good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask Olaoluwa to say something like uh talk more on network protection. So the five key that he initially previously talked about. I try to understand the different keys, but the network is like I don't get it. So I don't know if you can elaborate like more on it so I can I'll understand how to protect my organization network from being
Okay. Titus, I will assume you are talking about the the 5 key aspect of cloud security, right?
yes.
Okay. So let me just share my screen again so I take you through that again. So the first one, like I said, is identity and access management. And that is basically the process of identifying who is accessing your system and whatever it is, what are you authorizing them to have access to within your system. Second part is the network protection. So on your network layer, how do you want to get yourself protected? In some cases, you could deploy services like Cloudflare, which acts as it also acts as a proxy. In this case, a DNS proxy. So if a request is made to your application or your server, it goes through Cloudflare, and Cloudflare does a bit of filtering to see if there is any anomalous traffic coming through, and it drops those and sends you only the legitimate traffic. So that's more around network protection. And for data security, this speaks more to your database. And I think one thing I mentioned that is very important here is whenever you're defining your architecture, you have to decide if you want your databases to be publicly available or internally or only available on a private network. And I said the best practice to this is to have your data situated on a private network, because it's only a network that is accessible from the external world that is more exposed to attacks or compromises. But having them on a private network ensures that only whoever it is you grant access to will be able to access that, and a lot of restrictions can come from that as well. And from the OS security and admin part, I talked about keeping up to date with the latest vulnerability and security threats so that you can deploy patches on them as soon as they're available. And the last thing I talked about was monitoring, alerting, and audit trails. So basically, it's more about being informed whenever anything is happening within your system. You have to know when a service is down, why it is down, and be able to trace it to the root cause of the problem, because that's the only way you can actually protect against it from happening again. So I don't know if I answered your questions, Titus. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I think we have some questions on the chat box. But before we go there, just take this question. Accounting and Reports Hub. Raise up your hand.
Yes, and good afternoon. I'm a newbie in this website. And when you mentioned security, cloud security, I don't have, I'm not well informed, so I really want to know lesser pace, as because a lot of terminologies are being used, and I'm trying to understand, especially when you say monitoring of our data, things like that. How do I set up a monitoring system concerning my website? Thank you. You get it?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that. Can you come again, please?
Hello.
Sorry, Joshua, did you get the question?
Not really. Okay. So please, can you just repeat the question?
So I think if we can summarize the question, what she was asking at the end was, how can you set up a monitoring system, as you were talking about, for her website?
Okay, so thank you, Nick. Thank you for getting me there. There are different ways you can go about it, and again, it still depends on how your application or your website is being deployed. But one way, I know there are different tools that can help you with that. You can look into the likes of Zabbix, you can look at the likes of Nagios, you can also look at the likes of Prometheus. So those tools will guide you specifically on how you can use that, because what you are monitoring exactly is not necessarily the when you are talking about it from the infrastructure level, you have monitoring services. That you could configure a number of monitoring rules for that, depending on what your need will be. But just like I said, there are a number of tools that can help you with this. Zabbix is one of them, Nagios is one of them, and I think Prometheus is also one of them. So I hope that's I know it doesn't answer your question entirely, because I think we might have to go into the steps of step by step of that, and I don't think we can do that within this call. So but I think those tools I pointed to point you in the right path.
Okay, that's fine. Also, in case you also have maybe further questions, you could also just set up a meeting, just to take you through and make sure you understand more details. Okay, there's a question here from Osweki Success. There's always a debate on whose responsibility it is to maintain a data backup solution model.
Yeah, well, I think you including SaaS in the question changes the look of things, because I would assume you are talking about this from the context of a cloud provider. A cloud provider mostly won't provide you SaaS. It will probably be platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. So you can either have both of that. But in a SaaS setup, I don't really think you should be responsible, but it also depends on what your agreement with your provider is at that point in time. But in most cases, most providers will define what your responsibilities are. So let's just use AWS as an example. AWS will share you a shared responsibility model. But in the cases where you have your platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, to a very large extent, keeping your backup is totally your responsibility. Whatever the provider keeps is probably because in cases of failures from their end, even in most cases you won't know about it, but for some providers that monetize that, they will tell you about it, that okay, we keep backups for this particular cycle, probably on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, whatever it is. But I will still say that even if you have a provider that takes your backup every week, in most cases your backup requirements would never match with that, because if you are running a data critical business and you have to make sure that you keep a daily backup of your database, however you want to do it, I don't think the provider is really concerned about that. Well, I hope that sheds more light to your question. But like I said, in a SaaS model, in most cases, the provider is mostly responsible for your backups. Even in cases, that's in cases where it's even available. In some cases, it's not available. So, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
So success. I don't know if I answered the question.
Hello, success. Is that clear? Okay. Just to run with time. William David.
Hello.
Hello, William.
Hello.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Yeah,
just to add to what others have said, I don't know whether like some of us, like for example, now my domain for my website I use Whogohost, and my website designer has left, and most of the times I want to upload new information to my website. In fact, I don't know how to go about it, and I don't know how some of us can be trained on how to add information to our website. Thank you.
Okay, William, thanks so much for the question. But for us to just help you and to ensure that we also understand everything based on what we just asked, what we'll do is that someone from our website design unit will actually reach out to you. So I don't know if you could just drop either your phone number or your email address.
Okay, I'll do now. Thank you very much. I'll be so happy.
Okay,
it's a serious concern to me.
It's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. So we'll be running straight to our third speaker for today. His name is Adam Toth. He's the senior account manager at Bitninja. And so all of us that actually have questions, I believe Adam Toth will actually be doing justice to some of the questions, and also for clarification we will also need. Hello, Adam.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Good afternoon.
Okay. Perfect. John, welcome everyone, and let me share my screen. Just a second. Let me know if you can see it. Okay. Perfect. So welcome everyone. My name is Adam, and I'm from Bitninja Server Security. And basically what Bitninja does is that we provide the server level security for Whogohost. Bitninja is actually not just a security tool which is providing 9 layers of security to each server it is installed on, but we provide a website, a worldwide defense network, meaning that each Bitninja protected server is actually sharing attack informations with all of our existing customers. So in case someone in the United States gets a new type of cyber attack, all the Whogohost servers will know about that in a second. This way, each cyber attack which is happening against Bitninja is actually just strengthening the shield. What Bitninja does on a server level is that it provides a protection against 99% of cyber attacks for the Whogohost protected servers. And apart from that, we thought that maybe it would be great to increase the protection on a website level as well. So what type of attacks might happen against the website? You can get WordPress hacked, for example, and you see a CMS type hacked. You can get the phishing content on the website. Your websites can do outbound spams. You can get blacklisted by search engines, for example, and you can just get under an attack. The best cybersecurity tool right now is to provide a cybersecurity protection for the website is Bitninja Cyber Protection, because we already have an existing server level security installed on the servers. But with the cyber protection, you can actually just bring a new level to that. Meaning that with Bitninja Cyber Protection, you will get an access to a security console where you can actually monitor all the network activity concerning your websites. You can monitor all the malwares which Bitninja already protected and caught on your systems. And you can patch vulnerabilities as well. We provide a vulnerability patching by actually looking through your website, finding the existing vulnerabilities, and doing an AI managed patching for that as well. Okay, one of the first layers for Bitninja Cyber Protection is actually the botnet attack protection, meaning that each day thousands of attempts are happening, attack attempts are happening against websites and web servers from botnets. And with Bitninja Server and Site Protection, you can actually monitor all these traffics, which would slow down your websites, and Bitninja can stop these requests for you. The other one is the anti-malware. As I mentioned, Bitninja currently has the state-of-the-art malware protection right now. And with site protection, you can actually review all your files and monitor all the malware activity for your website. You can request for scanning, for example, and for malware cleaning as well. Website vulnerability. So as I mentioned, Bitninja is doing a 24/7 security monitoring for your website with site protection, meaning that the websites constantly get reviewed for new vulnerabilities coming out. If there is a new CMS patch release, for example, Bitninja will look out for your website and will do an automated patch for that, so that your websites will be always up to date and fresh without any security risks. And of course, we have a capture protection as well, because we saw that a lot of brute force activities are happening against our customers' websites, for example, against the VP admin login sites and so on. So you can set up custom capture pages for that with Bitninja. And if you would be interested in trying out site protection, it's a great news, because you can actually sign up and try out, because Whogohost is one of the official providers of site protection. Thank you. If you have any questions, just let me know in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam, for that presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep, okay, yeah, you can go on.
Please, how safe is it using Tor? You know of the Tor browser, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how safe it is, because, you know, hiding of IP address, you know, using it for website of cookies, and, you know, how safe it is. That is my point. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay. Like, I'm trying to ask how safe it is, like Tor, the Tor browser, TOR.
Okay, the Tor browser. Yeah. Bitninja is actually this is kind of a deeper technological question for me, but Bitninja does not really support the Tor browsers.
Okay. So it
Yeah,
will prevent.
and maybe also
prevent,
just to add to Adam's question. So I think the Tor browser as a technology and how safe it is to use, it's a little bit off topic for Bitninja's presentation.
Yeah.
The Tor browser isn't meant for anything personal. So you shouldn't sign into the Tor browser with your social media accounts or Gmail, because it's peer-to-peer communication.
Okay.
But you should probably join a webinar specifically about cybersecurity for individuals. They would probably be best able to cover that topic.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
And then maybe Adam, a question from the previous session, where I believe it was the Accounting and Reporting Hub wanted to know, how best do they monitor the traffic that their website receives? I don't know if it was from an analytics perspective or from a security perspective. Do you guys offer anything like that?
Yeah, from security perspective, Bitninja Site Protection would be the greatest tool for you because it will monitor all the security-related traffic on your website. For example, if you get any type of brute force or hacking activities happening against your website, you will be able to monitor that through Site Protection. But if we are talking about any other database-related monitoring, the monitoring tools mentioned earlier would be the best.
And then I assume with Bitninja, because I've seen the product once or twice, it's kind of easy to plug it in and use it. You don't have to be a technology expert to use Bitninja.
No, not at all, not at all. So for the Bitninja Server Security, which is the base product of Bitninja, it is managed entirely by Whogohost and by the service providers, server providers. For site protection, we aimed to, so that it will be easy to use for any end users. It will be informant, and you cannot really do any harm to your websites because our security experts are actually monitoring all your systems and the settings for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Hello?
Yep.
Yes, I can tell that.
Can it be used for the Django website development? Like, you understand? Can you hear me?
Are you talking about Bitninja? If that can be used for Java development websites?
Yeah.
I'm going to let Adam answer, but I don't think Bitninja is a website development application.
No. It's just a security website. Actually, any type of website created can be secured by Bitninja as long as it is located on the Whogohost servers, for example.
Okay.
So are you currently building a website and you're looking for a place to host it?
I can't hear you. Are you talking to me?
Yes. Are you building a website and you're looking for a place to host it?
To host it, yeah. It's safe cloud to host it. Yeah.
You can definitely host that with Whogohost. And then Bitninja will provide the security layer, so you can actually monitor the traffic to your website and respond to security threats.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam, and also thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, Titus was actually raising his hand, so I don't know if you can see there.
Yes, the question I wanted to answer is something I can find out on their website. So I'll search on their website to see the services they offer. Yeah, I wanted to know what the services they're offering, if it's just a cloud security, layer security, or they have other services there also. But I know it's something I can get. I can check on their website. So if I'll check the site to see what they're offering.
Okay, great. Okay, that's fine. Titus. And this also our contact address, like I initially mentioned. If you have questions or anything, you'll always reach out to us, and we are 24/7 available to attend to your questions and your requests. You could actually send us an email at enterprise@whogohost.com, or you could call the number you can see displayed here, and then someone from our units will definitely get across to you. And for those that have actually joined lately in the course of the webinar, at Whogohost, we actually do domain registration. Anything cloud, we are actually a one-stop shop for cloud. Anything cloud, for example, your migration, cloud server management, anything. Actually help in those regards. We also do offer communication tools, Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, and the rest. So, like I said, you could actually reach out to us to visit our website, www.whogohost.com, and send us an email to the enterprise unit. I also call the phone numbers here. Okay, I think that's all for the webinar. Sincerely, I want to appreciate everyone for making our time to be part of this session this afternoon. I know most of us actually have you know, a lot of busy schedules, but for trying to get out time to be part of this, I want to say a very big thank you to all the speakers, Nick, Adam, and Olaoluwa. So thank you very, very much for your time. And also to all of you that have made our time to attend, we want to appreciate you all. The recording will be made available, will be sent to emails, so that you could go, you know, through it, and questions, anything, but also just reach out to us via our handles or via also our email platform. So, okay.
Hello.
Okay, Chiamaka.
Yes, please. I did not get that website again. Please, can you repeat, please?
Okay, you mean our website?
Yes, I did get that.
Okay, enterprise.whogohost.com.
Enterprise.whogohost.com. Enterprise. Please, can you spell? I didn't get that, please.
Okay, the Whogohost, WHO.
Okay, Whogohost. Okay.
Yes.
WHOGOHOST.com.
Yeah.
Right.
So anything hosting.
Enterprise.whogohost.com. Okay.
And also our email, also it's enterprise@whogohost.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Chairman. Okay, any other question or clarification from anyone before we call it a day?
No questions from my side, but just Joshua, thank you to you and the team from Whogohost for putting this together. It was a fun experience, and it was great listening to the other presenters as well.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you and your team for making our time also.
Anytime for Whogohost.
Okay, so I don't know, allow me, do you have anything to say?
Okay, I would like to thank everyone for joining this webinar. I hope it was educative and insightful. And as Joshua said, we have lots of cloud products and services that would help you to stay safe and secure, and also help you to collaborate more in the cloud. So you can always reach out to us, the enterprise team, on the phone number and the email address he gave, and we will be there to speak with you and also guide you and listen to any pain points you have before we can now together come up with a solution that would resolve whatever issues you may be having in the cloud. So we are here for you, and thank you once again for joining this webinar.